I never thought my marriage would end because of an iPad, specifically my daughter's iPad, the very device that exposed my wife's affair with a coworker, a man I once invited into our home, trusted, even called a friend. But the moment my daughter looked at me and asked Dad, "Is Uncle Nick my new dad?" That's when I knew this wasn't just between two adults anymore. This is a story about betrayal pain and children forced to grow up far too soon. And if you've ever told yourself maybe I should stay for the kids, this story might make you think twice. Chapter 1: Dinner with the Destroyer. I never thought a simple family dinner could lead to a war. But then, my daughter brought her new boyfriend home. His name was Ryan. 17 years old, pulled up in a BMW and honked the horn in our driveway like he was waiting for a valet. The moment I stepped outside, he rolled down the window, sunglasses on, gave me a cocky nod, and said, "You Lucy's dad." Cool. No proper greeting. No handshake. Just that. I tried to be polite. After all, my daughter seemed to like him, at least back then. Lucy is my only child. She thinks I'm the most boring dad on the planet. I'm an accountant. I wear white socks with sneakers. I part my hair, and I own way too many polos. I know I don't look like much. And honestly, I'm fine with that. I've had enough of being something in the past. But Ryan, he was a different kind of something. At dinner, he strutted around like he was interviewing to marry into a millionaire's family, bragging about his Call of Duty ranking and how he planned to join the Marines after graduation. Okay, sure. He could talk. But then he turned to me, smirked, and said, "Bet you've never been in a real fight, huh?" I gave him a flat smile. Maybe we should eat before we talk about fighting. But he didn't stop. He pointed at me, looked at Lucy, and said, "Your dad looks like the kind of guy who hides behind his wife during a fender bender." Then he turned to my wife. Sarah snapped his fingers and added, "Ma'am, can I get some imported sparkling water? My family only drinks that." Sarah shot me a look. I know that look. It meant stay calm, not now. Lucy's face turned bright red, embarrassed by him, and maybe even by me. Ryan kept going. He spotted the American flag keychain on my keys. "Patriotic, huh? Supporting the troops from your couch?" "Right." My chest started to burn, but I said nothing. Sarah's hand found mine under the table. We had agreed years ago never to tell Lucy the full story. About my past. About what I did. About why we really moved to this quiet suburban life. Ryan didn't know. And he definitely didn't know when he picked up my reading glasses, hunched his back, and squeaked, "Please don't make me do anything dangerous. I'm just a weak little accountant." Then he laughed. Hard. Like he was the funniest guy in the room. I stood up, said nothing, walked to the coat closet. Behind the winter coats was an old wooden box. I hadn't opened it in 15 years. I placed it on the table. Lucy frowned. "Dad, what are you doing?" I opened the lid. Inside was a deep navy blue uniform, metals still polished and gleaming, and in the center, the Purple Heart. Ryan stopped laughing. I pulled out a photo of my unit in Afghanistan, pointed at myself third from the left. "This was outside Kandahar, 2003. I didn't support the troops from a couch, Ryan." I rolled up my sleeve. There was a long scar on my shoulder, shrapnel from an IED that hit our supply convoy. I lost 2 men that day. Both had little kids. About Lucy's age, silence. Lucy sat frozen, tears in her eyes, not from shame anymore, but from understanding. As for Ryan, his face turned beet red, not from embarrassment, from rage. "You just made a big mistake, old man." He growled, then slammed the door and stormed out to his car. I watched through the window. He was calling someone, multiple calls. His face twisted in fury. He slammed the steering wheel with his fists. I know that kind of rage. That's not regular teenage drama. That's hatred. Lucy came and sat next to me on the couch. She looked at me differently. "Dad, why didn't you ever tell me?" I placed a hand on her shoulder. "Because I wanted you to love the man I am, now not the man I used to be. I've lived enough war for a lifetime." What I didn't know was that a new war had just begun. And this time the enemy didn't carry a gun. He carried the last name, Hamilton, too much money, and not a shred of conscience. Chapter 2. A War Without Bullets. 3 days after that fateful dinner, I started noticing small changes. Subtle but strange. The first call came from Mr. Henderson, my biggest client for the past 8 years. We used to chat for an hour every month, half business, half gossip about golf and automatic lawnmowers, but this time his tone was cold robotic. 5 minutes in, he ended the call with, "We're currently reassessing all service providers. We'll be in touch." At the time, I didn't think much of it, just odd. Then it happened at Lucy's school. I showed up to pick her up like always, but no one greeted me. Mrs. Chen, the woman who once begged me to do her taxes for free, 3 years in a row, spotted me from a distance and crossed the street without a word. I started feeling like I was radioactive, and no one wanted to say it. Then I got the first message from Ryan. Just 4 words. "Just getting started, soldier boy." Still, I didn't believe it. I thought, no way. He's just a bruised ego teenager. Worst case, he unfollows my daughter and trashes me in a group chat, but I had seriously underestimated him. A week later, Sarah got a call from the community club we'd been members of for over a decade. They said, "Your membership is currently under review due to several concerning reports from other members." No names, no details. That same day, Lucy came home crying. Her friends had started avoiding her. One of them even said to her face, "I heard your dad threatened your last boyfriend with a knife. Since when did I become dangerous?" Apparently, Ryan had told the whole school that I was an unhinged veteran prone to PTSD outbursts who had traumatized his future son-in-law with gory war stories and jealous rants. And the worst part, people believed him. Because Ryan had the face of trustworthiness, and I had a past, I decided to go to Ryan's house. I'd done tax work for the security guard in that neighborhood, so I used to get in no problem. But that day, the guard stopped me. He apologized and said, "Sir, your name is on the do not admit list." That's when I realized Ryan wasn't just trying to get back at me. He wanted to erase me from this town. A few days later, the Facebook post started. Photos of Ryan leaning on his BMW captioned "Success threatens the insecure." Hashtags, "Support our troops, but some need help." Then a black and white, filtered shot of me walking across a parking lot. Caption, "A father who can't accept his daughter growing up." Soon after my clients started dropping one by one, rumors travel faster than truth. Invoices were suddenly delayed. I looked at my spreadsheets and realized 15 years of building this business, bleeding out day by day because of a 17-year-old boy. Then came the most personal blow. One morning, Lucy called me from school. All 4 of her car tires had been slashed deep, clean cuts like from a carving knife. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a prank. It was a warning. I asked the school to check the security footage. They said, unfortunately, there was a technical issue with the cameras during that time. No footage, no witnesses, nothing except a new message from Ryan, a photo of Lucy's slashed tires, with the message, "Accidents happen, especially to those who disrespect important people." Sarah tried to stay calm, but I saw the look in her eyes. It had changed. And Lucy. She didn't look at me with the same admiration she did the night I showed her the scar on my shoulder. No, it was a different look. Doubt. The kind of look that says, what if they're right about you? And that's when I knew I was in a war. One with no gunfire, no bombs, no trenches. Just rumors, smartphones, social media, and a boy raised on trust funds and parental neglect turned into a living weapon. I had survived battlefields in Afghanistan, but this war was being fought in my own neighborhood, and this time the enemy wore designer clothes and the smug smile of a rich kid who'd never been told no. Chapter 3. No longer had the right to be normal. There is something people rarely talk about when it comes to war. That feeling of being separated from your own life, like you're standing outside watching your world fall apart piece by piece and being powerless to stop it. I thought I'd left that feeling back on the battlefield until Ryan showed up. Every day after the incident with Lucy's car, I noticed her getting quieter, less eye contact, less warmth. Sarah tried to keep the peace, but I could see it in her eyes too. That creeping doubt. I used to be the hero in this family. Now what was I? The man who got his daughter socially exiled. A paranoid old guy ranting about a social media war with a 17-year-old. I didn't blame them. I blamed myself for staying silent for too long. So I started watching Ryan. Not stalking, not breaking any laws, just observing. He claimed to be volunteering at a sports club for college application credits. I found a reason to be there. Watched from a distance. Instead of helping, he sat in a back room for hours gaming, eating snacks, and talking on the phone. I started collecting evidence. Photos, videos, timestamps, testimonies. Not to expose him publicly, but to prepare for something I once learned in the military: when you can't fire back with bullets, fire back with intelligence. And then Ryan slipped up. One late night, my newly installed security camera caught his BMW slowly pulling up in front of our house. At first I thought he was just passing by. But no. Someone in black stepped out, held up a phone, snapped photos of the house from different angles, the windows, the doors, even the back gate. At 3 a.m., when I checked older footage, I realized he'd done this at least 5 times that week. And then I got a message, a photo of Sarah watering the front lawn, taken from across the street, clearly with a telephoto lens or a drone. Text underneath: "She seems to like peace and quiet. How about you?" My hands shook, not out of fear, but because I knew this wasn't slander anymore. This wasn't bullying. This was targeted stalking and psychological warfare. I checked the trash bins in our yard. Some documents were disturbed, unusual scuff marks around the lid, so I installed a rear camera. And just as I suspected, the next night Ryan jumped the fence, opened our trash bin, and took photos of our financial, records, health reports, prescriptions. I caught the whole thing on video. Clear face, clear actions. For the first time in weeks, I had the upper hand. But this war wasn't just between me and Ryan. There was a third party caught in the crossfire: Lucy. One day, out of the blue, she asked Dad, "Is it true you lost control during a study session once I froze?" Ryan had told his friends I barged into school and threatened students, that I had PTSD meltdowns at PTA meetings, that I'd been arrested in the military for attacking fellow soldiers. I had no idea where he was getting this stuff until I checked the browser history at the public library Ryan frequented. He'd searched things like recognizable PTSD symptoms, how to make a veteran look unstable, how to fabricate mental health profiles. He was studying me like a tactical target. And then came the final straw. One morning, just after Lucy left for work, she found Ryan waiting outside, holding a huge bouquet. Simple clothes, innocent face, the perfect act of the remorseful boyfriend. When she rejected him, he followed her car all the way home. Never close enough to break the law, but close enough for anyone watching to feel the creepiness. I stood at the edge of the driveway, blocking his path. He stepped out of the car, voice calm. I came to apologize. "No more war. Let's just move on for Lucy's sake." I said nothing, just stared straight into his eyes. And Ryan, he looked at me like he'd already won. No shouting, no threats, just enough performance to make me look like the unhinged one. Whispers started again in the neighborhood. Maybe the kid really has changed. He should forgive him. Just teenage drama, isn't it? No one knew the truth. Or worse, they didn't want to. I'd lived the life of a soldier. I'd seen cowardice behind polished smiles, but I never thought I'd see that same look in the suburbs I moved to for peace. And that's when I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't hope people would figure it out. Couldn't keep standing still. If the world didn't believe in the quiet man in polo shirts and sneakers, fine. Then I'd show them that even a quiet father can become a storm. Chapter 4, My Daughter and Our First Counterattack. The war with Ryan had entered a new phase, more subtle, more vile, and slow burning like early stage cancer. No explosions, no blood, but it was eating away at every corner of our lives. Sarah was called into HR at work. An anonymous email had been sent to the leadership team claiming her husband, me, had severe psychological issues, had assaulted a student, and was a potential threat to public safety. They told her, "This is just protocol, but we need you to sign this internal incident acknowledgement. Just a piece of paper, right wrong." It was a milestone, a stain on her record, and a crack in our home. Sarah became more cautious, not because she doubted me, but because Ryan's reach had begun to feel like a contagious virus creeping through every wall of our lives. Lucy started slowly withdrawing from social media. She became quieter, more distant, and the way she looked at Ryan, it wasn't like he was a boyfriend anymore. He was a living nightmare. One night, Lucy went to Ryan's house for a group project. She said he left his backpack on a chair and went to the bathroom. For some reason, she opened it. Inside was a black notebook, organized like a military operation. Page 1, Lucy's family structure, weak points, daily patterns. Page 2, lights out schedule, Sarah's return time, blind spots and camera rotation at age 3, reconstructing the deranged dad narrative. Step by step. Even a section labeled Public Response Strategy, Media Manipulation. My name was written in red ink. Underneath it, break, at all costs. Lucy secretly took pictures of every page, then carefully put the notebook back like nothing ever happened. That night, she knocked on my door. Didn't say a word. Just handed me her phone open to the gallery. I scrolled through each image. I've survived war zones. I've faced landmines, grenades, stray bullets. But I'd never felt my hands shake from a handwritten notebook. Until now. Dad, Lucy said, her voice cracking. "I'm sorry. I should have believed you sooner." I didn't blame her. Ryan had spent months building his perfect image, not just with the outside world, but with the person I loved most. And that's when I decided, no more defense. Recording him sneaking into our yard wasn't enough. Snapping pictures of trash raids wasn't enough. I needed to show this town exactly who he really was. Sarah, always the calm one, was the one who said it. We cut the security footage into segments. Time-stamped, clear face, clear actions. Then send it to everyone in the neighborhood. We didn't post it online. We didn't start a smear campaign. We sent it privately, one person at a time, to every neighbor who had once avoided us, every parent who believed Ryan, every business contact who had pulled away. We used everything, email, USBs, even printed letters if necessary. And then something shifted. Mrs. Chen, the woman who had once crossed the street to avoid me, sent a message. I heard so many things from Ryan's mother, and I believed them, but I saw the footage, and I'm sorry. Then more people started reaching out. Some apologized. Some business owners reversed their decisions. Some of Lucy's old friends called her again, saying they were sorry for distancing themselves. The conversation in town began to change. It wasn't the PTSD veteran threatening his daughter's boyfriend anymore. It was the rich kid stalking a veteran's family like they were prey. And then one day, Ryan showed up at our doorstep. But he wasn't alone. He brought his father, and a stack of documents. I opened the door. Didn't invite them in. His father stood behind him, eyes like cold steel. His mother gave a polite smile. "We're here to resolve this," she said. "If your family accepts the apology, all of this can be forgotten." I asked, "And if we don't?" His father stepped forward, voice low enough for only me to hear. "We have influence on the admissions board where your daughter's applying. Things could get complicated if this tension continues." I didn't respond, just stared directly into his eyes. Sarah stood behind me. Lucy watched silently from the upstairs window. No one said a word, because by then we all knew we were no longer victims. We were witnesses, and we had evidence. That night, Lucy sat at her laptop for hours. researching recording laws, privacy rights, data security. I asked her what she was planning. She hugged me for the first time in what felt like forever. "I'm just doing what you once did to protect this country," she whispered. "Now it's my turn to protect this family." Chapter 5. The counterattack Ryan never saw coming. 3 days after that polite doorstep visit, Lucy sent Ryan a message. Short, simple, just the kind of bait he couldn't resist. "I'll hear your apology, just this once. Meet me at the park." Ryan replied almost instantly. "I knew you understood me best. Thank you for giving me this chance." I nearly threw up reading that. Lucy chose the large park on the north side of town. It had plenty of exits, decent foot traffic, and the benches were spaced just far enough for privacy, but not far enough for Ryan to run if things went sideways. Before leaving, she triple-checked the tiny voice recorder hidden in her collar. She messaged her new boyfriend Nathan to wait nearby just a few dozen meters away. And me, I followed from a distance. Far enough not to be seen. Close enough in case it all went bad. I had never seen my daughter walk like that before. Gone was the slouched posture of a misunderstood 17-year-old girl. In its place stood a young woman walking into the lion's den with purpose. Ryan was already there, sitting cross-legged on a bench, white button-down shirt, holding a wilted bouquet. A hilariously obvious performance of, "I've changed." And of course, he still thought he was in control. As Lucy approached, I saw him straighten up, place the flowers beside him, and soften his expression. But within 10 minutes, I saw his face begin to shift. He was moving more, gesturing wildly, his voice getting louder. Lucy, on the other hand, was calm as stone. Just the occasional nod, sometimes a slight shake of her head, always keeping her chest turned toward the microphone. I couldn't hear what was being said from where I was, but later when I listened to the recording, my heart pounded. Ryan confessed to everything. Not just what he'd done to our family, the tire slashing, the anonymous emails, the late-night surveillance, but things he'd done before, at his previous school. That teacher thought she could give me a C. I made sure she had to transfer. No one in that district dared cross me again. Your dad doesn't get that he's just a washed-up loser clinging to the past. I just wanted him to feel what it's like to choke in his own world. I never loved you. You were a gateway." Then came the moment he reached for Lucy's hand as she tried to stand. Nathan was there instantly, keeping a respectful distance but clearly ready to act. But Lucy didn't need him. She yanked her hand away and executed a simple defensive move, one I'd taught her as a kid. Quick, clean, quiet. Ryan froze just for a second, but it was enough. Lucy stood up and said cold and clear, "Thanks for the chat, Ryan. From now on, we'll talk through the police." Ryan exploded. "Don't think you've won. I have lawyers. I have proof your dad's mentally unstable." And then Lucy pulled out her phone, held it up. "You just confessed everything. And this recording was uploaded to the cloud 10 minutes ago." Ryan's face turned pale, then red, then almost purple. At that exact moment, I stepped out from behind a tree. Nathan stood beside Lucy, and the people in the park began to turn toward the commotion. Ryan had nowhere left to run. A few minutes later, his parents arrived. His mother wore sunglasses and screamed, "My son was set up by a mentally unstable family." But this time, no one believed her. I handed the audio recording to the police when they arrived. Multiple witnesses, including an elderly man walking his dog, confirmed they had overheard Ryan threatening, bragging, and admitting everything. I didn't say much, just wrapped my arms around Lucy as she trembled from the adrenaline. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just whispered, "Dad." Did I do it right this time? I nodded. You won. Not with fists, but with your mind. That day, the truth was officially out. Ryan wasn't just some misunderstood teenager. He was a predator, one who had built an entire system of psychological destruction, crafted like a military campaign, and he had picked the wrong family to mess with. Chapter 6. The Truth Spoke and the Mask. Shattered news spreads like wildfire in a small town. Not because I went around telling people, but because people heard the recording for themselves. The police had the official copy. Lucy's friends had backups. And those who once defended Ryan suddenly went quiet. Then Ryan's former teacher, the one who left the school after he ruined her career, reached out to me. She cried over the phone. Finally, someone believes me. We met at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. She brought a USB drive with her, filled with fake emails, doctored images, and manipulated messages Ryan had used to defame her. My family had to move. I lost my job, my reputation. All because that boy wanted an A. Her voice cracked. I thought I was going crazy. And then others started to appear. One of Ryan's ex-girlfriends messaged Lucy. He had pressured her into getting an abortion after getting her pregnant, then spread rumors that she slept with half the school. A teenage pizza shop employee messaged too. Ryan had filed a false complaint against him for inappropriate behavior, all because he forgot to add extra cheese. The kid nearly got fired. To this day, he hadn't applied anywhere else, afraid someone might ask why he left. Ryan wasn't just a spoiled rich kid. He was a character assassin raised under protection. Taught that money and status could rewrite reality. But this time, he picked the wrong family. And for the first time, he didn't control the narrative. Lucy officially filed for a restraining order. The case file was thick, almost like a military dossier. It included video footage, photos, browser history, testimonies from past victims, and the full confession recording. The court signed the order in less than 24 hours. The admissions board from the college Lucy had applied to also called. We've reviewed the situation, and we apologize for having been influenced by misinformation. Lucy's application will be considered as originally intended. In fact, she's now under special review for her resilience. Sarah sat on the couch holding the phone, tears rolling down her cheeks. She didn't say a word. She just squeezed my hand and whispered, "We're finally alive again." The sports club board sent a formal apology and waived our membership fees for the entire year. Old clients returned. Contracts were re-signed. Even our neighbor, the one who once believed every rumor, came by with banana bread and a hug. "I owe you an apology." Things began to come back, slowly, but clearly. The wounds might never fully heal, but at least the bleeding had stopped. And then Ryan disappeared. No more school sightings. No BMW parked on the corner. No more Instagram captions like "misunderstood warrior." Then one day, Lucy got a message from a friend. His family moved out of state. He's been enrolled in a private behavioral boarding school. No official statement, no public apology, no social media meltdown, but everyone knew. Ryan's end didn't come with handcuffs or a courtroom sentence. It came in the form of quiet stares from people who had once believed him, and in being erased from the very world he once ruled like royalty. As for Lucy, she transformed. She started a support group at school, helping other students recognize emotional manipulation, mental abuse, and coercive control. 3 other girls came forward, sharing stories about relationships that made them lose their sense of self. "I don't want anyone else to go through what I did," Lucy said. Her eyes sparkled, not like someone who'd broken, but like someone who'd been rebuilt stronger. And me, I went back to my spreadsheets, tax returns, and clients who argue over every penny. But I wasn't just the quiet dad in polos anymore. I was the man who stood firm when the whole town turned away. I was the father who showed his daughter that sometimes fighting doesn't require bullets. It requires belief and a damn good plan. Chapter 7. We didn't go back to who we were. We became something better. 6 months after that unforgettable afternoon in the park, I stood at the doorway to Lucy's room, watching her pack. Suitcases, textbooks, makeup, a few old journals, all arranged neatly and purposefully. She was no longer the girl who used to snap at me for calling if she was 10 minutes late. No longer the teenager embarrassed when her dad picked her up in shorts and flip-flops. She was a young woman now, someone who had walked through hell and stepped into the light on her own. On the morning she left for college, she hugged me longer than usual. Then out of nowhere, she whispered, "Dad, thank you for not punching Ryan." I laughed. Honestly, I wanted to break his face, but then I realized, you taught me something. Sometimes victory isn't about strength. It's about refusing to become the version of yourself that your enemy created. Lucy smiled, her eyes glimmering. I learned that from you. Sarah stood beside us, smiling too, then turned to me. We should go on a trip. Just the two of us, before she gets buried in assignments and complaint emails from student services. I nodded. As long as there's bad Wi-Fi, I'm in. Our lives didn't return to what they were. They didn't need to. Because now we understood each other better. We didn't hide the past anymore. And most importantly, we weren't afraid. Sarah went back to work stronger than ever. She no longer looked down when someone asked, "How's your veteran husband doing?" Now she looked them in the eye and said, "He's not just fine. He's the reason our family is still standing." As for me, I no longer had cameras in every corner. I no longer checked over my shoulder leaving the office. I returned to my spreadsheets, tax files, and watered-down coffee, but this time with a deep and grateful heart. We didn't talk about Ryan much. Not because we'd forgotten, but because we refused to let him take up any more space in our minds. And then one day, Lucy got a message. Not from Ryan, but from her college roommate, whose cousin attended the same behavioral boarding school Ryan had been sent to. It was just one line. He's been quiet, no drama. Actually trying to graduate early. Lucy showed me the message. I read it, then paused. Finally, I asked, "Do you think he's actually changed?" Lucy shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe he's just hiding, waiting for the next opportunity. I nodded slowly. Then let's just live well. Because no manipulator survives when the prey is no longer afraid. And that's how we moved forward, without hatred, without fear. Only with the lessons we learned from this silent war, that sometimes the enemy wears a clean white shirt, that emotional abuse cuts deeper than any knife, and that the truth, if you're patient, always finds a way to speak. We weren't heroes. We were just an ordinary family that refused to break. And if you're going through something similar, being smeared, manipulated, sabotaged in the shadows, remember, don't fight with hatred, fight with evidence. Stand your ground and never let them decide who you are. When she came back, not to apologize, but to demand back her right to be a mother, I wasn't afraid anymore, because I knew my daughter doesn't need someone perfect. She just needs someone who won't walk away on her worst days. I don't forgive. I don't forget, but I also won't let that betrayal define where we go next. Thank you for listening to our story. And if you've ever been betrayed, abandoned, or had to be a single parent when you never planned to be, I just want you to know one thing. You're not alone.